Don't ever underestimate that even the smallest of actions can have a profound impact on our lives as it starts a chain reaction that sometimes we're not even aware will impact us as well as those around us. Hi everyone, Chris Natzke here with Black Belt Leadership Speaking and Coaching with your Mind of a Champion tip of the week. One of my favorite childhood memories of my grandma Natzke is her love for the game dominoes. I remember being in her home several times where she would just have them all lined up and she'd be playing with herself. And now while she tried to teach me the game, as well as probably instill a love for it, it never really took off. But every time I see or think of dominoes, I always think of my grandma. And several years ago, I was introduced to a video that I actually use in my keynote talks called Domino Chain Reaction. Domino Chain Reaction. And in the video, what you have in there is a man who probably looks exactly like your high school physics teacher, a little portly man with a short sleeve plaid shirt and a pocket protector. And he's talking about dominoes. And what he says about them is that a domino, when standing and pushed over, has enough energy in it to knock over another domino that's 1.5 times its own size. So if you had a 3-inch domino and you knocked it over, you could knock over another domino standing next to it that's 4.5 inches tall. And so what he did in this experiment is he lined up 13 dominoes, all side by side with one another. And the smallest of the dominoes was 5 millimeters high, and the largest was over 1 meter high and weighed over 100 pounds. And he simply took a ballpoint pen and he hit the first domino, which knocked over the second, which knocked over the third, which at the end knocked over the domino that weighed over 100 pounds. 13 dominoes. And what he said is that was 13 dominoes, but if it had been 29 dominoes, the last domino would have been the size of the Empire State Building. Wow, right? So what does this mean for us outside of just a kind of a neat physics experiment? Well, what it says to me is that oftentimes in our lives, we have big visions, big goals for what we want to do, but we don't have the courage to get started. The task might seem too overwhelming, or we don't even know where to start. But basically, success begins with just one small action that builds to the next, that builds to the next, that then builds to the next. One of my favorite books is Atomic Habits by author James Clear. And in it, he talks about this idea of what I have now come to call the 1% solution. And basically it states is that if you take an activity, something that you want to improve upon, just 1% each day over the course of the year, at the end of those 365 days, you'll be 37 times better than when you started. Now you might ask the question, well, what happens if you were to maintain that momentum and take that out to 2 years? Well, many of us would think, well, we double our results. We'd be at 74 times better than when we started. But that's not what happens. You see, what happens is we're actually 1,400 times better than when we started because those good actions, those positive habits, they don't add up, they compound. And if you extrapolated that out to 5 years and you got 1% better each day over the course of 5 years, you'd be 76 million times better. So it speaks to the same thing that we're talking about with the dominoes. And so that is the question that I have for you today. What is that one small action, that one small step that you can begin taking today that can get you on the road to where you want to be? It doesn't have to be huge. It doesn't have to be grandiose. It doesn't have to be, that you're trumpeting your actions out to the world. It could be just something small that you do, but you build off of that, and then the next day you do something else. And the next day you do something else. And the next day you do something else. So there you have it, my friends. What do you have in your life? What's an activity? What's a commitment you can make to yourself to take some small but consistent action so that you can realize outstanding and massive results? So this has been Chris Natzke with Black Belt Leadership Speaking and Coaching, and we'll see you next time on the Mind of a Champion Tip of the Week.